Good morning. My name is Lloyd Albert. I'm with AAA Northeast. Welcome everyone to this event this morning. We've gathered here this morning to talk about National Move Over Day, which is this Saturday, October 16th. It's a day when first responders, I'm talking about police, fire, EMS, roadway workers, tow truck operators, along with communities across the country, promote awareness of move over laws. The slow down move over law is a traffic safety law that is currently mandatory in all 50 states. It requires all vehicles approaching an emergency scene, a scene that is marked by flashing lights, emergency responders, and rescue equipment, to slow down, and when safe to do so, move into a lane away from the emergency activity. Now, our AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety recently did a study that found that despite the fact that we have move over laws in all 50 states, almost a quarter of all drivers are not aware of this critically important law. Our study also found that 42% of drivers who don't comply with this law said that their behavior was either somewhat dangerous or not dangerous at all. So far this year, we've lost 14 tow truck drivers across the country, and on average, 24 first responders die each year after roadside crashes. And it's not only roadside responders who are at risk either. Since 2015, almost 1,600 people have been struck and killed while standing outside disabled vehicles at the roadside. Our goal this morning is to do everything we can to help prevent these tragedies by raising awareness of the slow down move over law. And it's one of our most important missions here at AAA Northeast. We really thank all of you for being here today to help focus attention on the fact that when you see red, yellow, or blue lights at the roadside, it's time to slow down and move over. Let's protect those who help to protect us. So with that, we have speakers this morning who are very familiar with what it's like to be at the roadside. They've spent big part of their careers at the roadside assisting motorists. We start off this morning with John Gadrow. He is a lieutenant with the Rhode Island State Police. He heads up the Rhode Island State Police Traffic Safety Unit. And Lieutenant, I was mentioning earlier that I had Googled you and saw an article in the Providence Journal back in May, really kind of clearly stating how dangerous the job is, patrolling at night for impaired drivers and other things. So very eager to hear your perspective on what it's like to be out there and words of wisdom that you have for all of us on complying with this law. So let me turn it over to you first.
Thank you, Lloyd. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about this important subject. The Rhode Island State Police, since our inception of the Move Over law, has pulled over 2,000 people for violation of the statute. 1,300 of which we've issued summons to, and another over 800 we've issued warnings to. It doesn't seem to be enough because as of this time this year, right now, we've had 7 crashes involving our troopers with individuals failing to move over. So it's a high priority for us. I've been on the road for 21 years. I'm a road trooper for my career. I've stopped motor vehicles all throughout the state, from Portsmouth all the way up to Providence. And I can tell you how important it is that this legislation is observed by the voting public. And you're correct in those stats. Most people aren't even aware of it that we talk to, that we stop on the roadside.
So very good. So Lieutenant, thank you for that perspective. Next up is Sid Wardell. He was the former chief of the Little Compton Police Department, and more recently is the executive director of the Rhode Island Police Chiefs Association. I think he had 27 years with the Little Compton Police Department and probably spent many hours at the roadside dealing with as a first responder. So Chief, let me turn it over to you for your perspective.
Thank you, Lloyd. And as you stated, my name is Sid Wardell. I'm the executive director of the Rhode Island Police Chiefs Association, previously serving 27 years within Little Compton. And the interesting thing about these types of situations that happen, it doesn't just happen on the highways, although that's, it's much more common because there's a lot more traffic and so forth. But when you think out in Little Compton, we don't have traffic lights. Along with that, we don't have street lights. So, officers that are out there are performing those duties on the roadways where the roads are much narrower. And, oftentimes, unfortunately, impairment comes into play, where individuals are not paying attention, for lack or because of that impairment, not just with the idea that they're not aware of what the law is. But as a statewide organization, we've seen firsthand the widespread importance of our residents being aware of the move over law on all roadways of the state, from residential to those larger roadways. And it's critical that drivers know what the law is and why it's important. And for those of you that want to read the law for yourselves and maybe get a better understanding, it is Rhode Island General Law 31.14.3, which actually falls under the conditions requiring reduced speeds. And it speaks in detail of not just the idea of roadway responders and emergency folks, but also when there's conditions on the roadway that require motorists to reduce their speeds. And the law applies to a wide range of situations like severe weather, unique road conditions, but what we're talking about here today, more specifically, is those specialty vehicles, those with emergency vehicle lights, whether they're blue, whether they're red, whether they're amber, whether they're on an emergency vehicle like a police car, a fire truck, ambulance, but even our transport type vehicles. And drivers must know to slow down and move over for any vehicle equipped with those types of lights that's stopped in any lane on the edge of the shoulder of the roadway. Some people may give more caution to a vehicle that's on the side, being the right-hand lane, lower, speed lane, but it's just important, if not more important, that they recognize that they need to give that same type of leeway to a vehicle that may be in the high speed lane or in the center lane on some of our highways. It's all too common occurrence throughout the state that drivers strike these types of vehicles, or even worse, strike the workers who've stepped out of their vehicles into the roadway. And oftentimes the workers are focused more on their duties, which may involve emergency type response, rendering aid to someone who's in need, or conducting important infrastructure repairs. And it's crucial that we educate our drivers, making sure that we try to keep those workers as safe as possible. So by slowing down and moving over for these vehicles, drivers will increase the safety of those workers as they perform their duties and reduce the risk of being hit by a vehicle. So we appreciate drivers throughout the state cooperating with this very important life-saving law. And I'd like to thank you, Lloyd, and AAA Northeast for arranging this virtual press event to help keep the motoring public aware of such laws intended to keep them safe, as well as the workers performing those essential duties upon those roadways. And as always, for the media for participating in these events with us to keep the motoring public appraised and their interest in providing that safety to our officers. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And your voice is an important one because you represent police departments all over the 39 cities and towns in Rhode Island. So thanks for hopping on this call today and sharing that perspective. Next up is Director Peter Alviti, who heads up our Rhode Island Department of Transportation. Besides all the construction work we're seeing in Rhode Island here, Peter also has responsibility for the Office on Highway Safety, a group of passionate, traffic safety advocates that the folks here at AAA have the pleasure of working with all the time. So I know, Peter, you have a whole lot of crews out there on a day in and day out basis, concerned for their safety as you are. I look forward to hearing your comments this morning, and welcome.
This slow down and move over law is so easy and so simple. Slow down and move over, it's not a big deal. The law applies for first responders, service vehicles like tow trucks, and people who work on the roads like our maintenance people and contractors of DOT. Rhode Island passed a law in 2008 to protect these first responders, the police, fire, and EMT, who arrive at these scenes of sometimes horrific crashes. That's asking enough of them, just being out there. We shouldn't also expect them to have to jump out of the way of passing vehicles. That's just so wrong. In the past 3 years, we've lost 139 good people just because drivers couldn't be bothered to slow down and move over. It's mind-boggling. At Rideout, we believe that this law codifies just a simple and decent behavior that all drivers should demonstrate, with or without the legal enforcement. We all know that it's annoying when you're hurrying to see that police car parked along the shoulder or come on a construction work zone that you weren't really expecting in your travels. And the natural inclination is just to zip by. But that one quick zip could cost a life or a limb. So the law is designed to trigger something in the back of our minds that tell us, just move the heck over, move over, give a person doing his or her job the room they need to do it safely. The image comes to my mind, and for all of you that are viewing this seminar, picture from the desk that you're looking at, your computer is sitting on, picture your workspace in your desk, and within 3 feet of you, having a car or a heavy commercial vehicle travel by at 65 miles an hour, right through your office, right by your desk. That's the image that these emergency workers see day in, day out, that they shouldn't have to. They should be given the room to do their job and to do it safely. Safety has become an even bigger concern since the COVID pandemic started. We did see an initial steep drop in the number of cars on our roads, and we saw at the same time an increase in the fatalities and injuries. Reduced traffic encouraged some drivers to speed. And to be frank, some of these drivers are taking out their frustration and having been cooped up on out on our highways. This puts our first responders and our road workers at even greater risk. I'm asking you all today to slow down, move over when you see these good people out there trying to do what they need to do. Do your part to get them home safely to their families, just like we try to do at DOT every day for all of you. At Rideout, safety is a core value. It's a goal of every construction project, every program, every initiative. We can do a lot to make our roads safe before anybody gets on them. But we also put millions of dollars and just as much effort into trying to help people get in the game with us, change their behavior, and behave in ways that keep us and them safe. Some of the behaviors we work on are really tough ones to change. It's hard to stop people from drinking and driving. It's hard to find ways to make people stop talking on their phones and looking at their iPads while they're driving. But moving over a lane to save a life, that's super easy stuff compared to these other things. Takes maybe 5 seconds. So slide over one more lane and give people doing their jobs the room they need to feel safe, because they're out there working to keep all of us safe. Thanks, Lloyd, for this opportunity to talk about this. This is a real important subject.
Absolutely, Director. Thank you. And you said it up front, it's such a simple law that you would think that everyone would be able to comply. But we're still seeing 25% of the people not even aware of it. So these kind of events today are very important to get the word out and to amplify that message. So we talk often blue lights, amber lights, and red lights. And the red light we're talking about are the firefighters who are out there day in and day out. In the past, we haven't had a firefighter perspective, so I'm particularly pleased today to have Assistant Fire Chief from the City of Providence, Kevin Dolan, joining us, a longtime member of the force in Providence with perspective that none of us could earn without having spent the time he has. So looking forward to your comments, Assistant Chief Dolan.
Well, Lloyd, thank you very much for having me here today. Throughout my career, I've been to numerous, probably thousands and thousands of emergency responses on the highway, on the streets, pertaining to either fighting a vehicle fire or vehicle tending to patients at a vehicle accident, or even just the medical emergencies in the vehicles. So I can speak from experience as far as sometimes with the people ignore, the motorists ignoring our flashing lights. At times, I don't know whether we were lucky to avoid injury, myself and my firefighters, or whether we can just, shining stars that our vehicle, our big fire truck is big and sometimes protects us. So the one thing that I could say, and I really would be to all the motorists out there, please, when you see our flashing lights, please abide by the law. Slow down and move when you do get the chance, move over a lane, because our first responders' safety and lives could definitely rely on that. And we really welcome the help that the state police always give us on the highway. But at times, as Director Alvidia stated, sometimes, there could be intoxicated people out there, and it's very dangerous on the highways, and also very dangerous in the streets, whether you're on a regular city street or not. There's been numerous times that firefighters have been in harm's way from the motorists ignoring the flashing lights. So I'm glad to be here, and I do once again will say, definitely please abide by the law, slow down, and move over when you get the chance. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. You said it very, very clearly. So you have it here today. We have our state police in Rhode Island. We have our municipal police officers represented. We have roadway workers from DOT, tow truck operators, AAA and other independent operators across the state, and of course, firefighters who are out there day in and day out risking their lives. And we often talk about, at AAA, what's more important than protecting our own? So we really appreciate the opportunity at every juncture to amplify the message of slow down and move over. Now, I often think, and I ask people, look, this law has been in effect now, as Director Albetti said, since 2008. Are you seeing people complying increasingly with the law? And I hear a lot of people say yes. I think people are more cognizant than they have been. But the fact is, we have a ways to go. And that's why an event like this today is very important. And we really appreciate the participation of the media across the state in really, amplifying the message to their listeners. I think that's how we make a difference. It's also helpful to see other people do it, and it becomes a habit of your own. So although we have a lot of work to do, I think we can say that we are making progress, we're moving the needle, and we'll continue to put this as a very important priority for all of us folks on the screen here today. So I really want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank our participants, our panelists, for sharing their perspective, especially given how many combined years we have here on the screen of working at the roadside. You couldn't have all said it any better. So thank you for that, and I wish everyone a good rest of the day. Thank you.